Hey, stepmamas, welcome to the Stepmom Unfiltered podcast. This is your go to space for unapologetic, unfiltered conversations about the roller coaster ride of stepmotherhood. We're your hosts. I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Amelia. We understand that being a stepmom is like walking a tightrope in stilettos. So we're here to help you embrace the messiness, laugh through the craziness, and find strength in our shared experiences.
This podcast is more than just a series of episodes, it's a community for stepmoms to be real, raw, and unfiltered. Buckle up because we're about to embark on a journey of candid conversations, taboo topics, and expert insights.
This is the Stepmom Unfiltered podcast, your sanctuary for real talk and real solutions.
Hey.
Howdy. Here we are. Here we are.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good.
Good, good.
Excited to be here and jump into today's topic.
Yes, it's a good one. I think everyone's going to enjoy it. I think it's very relatable for most stepmoms.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably one of the things we hear about the most and with our coaching clients and just in general with stepmom friends that we talk to. And
Yeah.
so let's jump in. Let's share what it is and talk about it. Step
Yeah.
stepmom resentment.
Hmm. I've felt it once or twice.
I'm pretty sure every stepmom has felt it once or twice
Yeah.
or 100 or 200 times.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I'll just go ahead and share my personal stories. Um, so it's something that I definitely struggled with for a really long time, like up until a few years ago. It really kind of ruled my life, because I often felt very unappreciated for the things I was doing and the effort that I was putting in and the time that I was putting in. Um, not so much that I needed, a gold star every time I did something, but it's really nice to feel like you are, appreciated. Um, and
Absolutely.
especially when you have difficult relationships with your stepkids or with the ex, there's not a lot of reciprocating feelings. When you do things for
Mhm.
your kids or your spouse, there's a hug or there's a thank you or there's, just those gestures. But when you have a difficult relationship with a stepchild and you don't as much as get a thank you or, anything, it really can make a stepmom feel, um, that what am I doing this for? What's the point? And wanting to give up, and causes a lot of anger, or at least it did for me.
Yeah, I think it can cause a lot of emotions that can build up over time and then explode. And I know for me, it wasn't always there. The resentment came after I poured into, thought everything was wonderful, and then things weren't so wonderful a few years in. So that was even more difficult to, it wasn't there from the beginning. And then to have to recognize it and name it and
Hmm.
then deal with it was really challenging for me. And it lasted a good number of years, and
Yeah,
probably still creeps up from time to time if I'm being really candid and honest about it.
it's true. Yeah, I have to really check myself sometimes. Um, and it really comes down to what am I saying yes to? Like, when am I saying yes to things that I don't really want to say yes to? Because if I don't get the reaction or, you know, that I want from, say, my stepdaughter, then it causes me to feel, frustrated or hurt or angry and resentful, right?
Mhm.
So I really have to be mindful of things that I'm saying yes to and why am I saying yes?
I
Um,
I love that thought of checking yourself and being aware of, we might be the adults, but it doesn't mean we're not human or we don't have feelings or we don't need to also stop
absolutely.
and look in a mirror.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's taken a lot of like healing and a lot of self-reflection and a lot of just work on myself to be able to recognize it. But yeah, I mean, I used to walk around like so angry all the time, and I think I've written about this in a blog before. I know I've talked about it before, but I used to do my stepdaughter's laundry every weekend she was with us to go back to her mom's, and I would fold it all up and pack it all up nicely. And no one ever said a word about it. No one ever appreciated the fact that here I was, no matter what we were doing on a Sunday, I was there getting the laundry done and folded and packing the suitcase back up. So nice because she always went back and forth with this little Tinkerbell suitcase that she liked. And I was really resentful. Like, why doesn't my husband recognize this? Why isn't the ex recognizing that, like, I'm sending back the clean clothes? Why isn't my stepdaughter? And years later, when I'm, assessing this situation, and I'm like, well, number one, my husband really doesn't care about who's doing the laundry. The laundry's done. That's all he was worried about. The
Well,
ex,
don't you think he was probably used to you doing the laundry for everyone else, so
well,
it didn't
that's
seem like it was above and beyond, or like that's where like
absolutely
the expectations and the standards are different.
right. Yeah, I do all the laundry because, I don't let him do the laundry.
It's another topic for
Um,
another
that's
day.
yeah, that's another topic. That's another trauma response. But anyways, um, yeah, so I would do this and like her mother would never recognize that, the clean laundry is coming back and it used to upset me, but when I think back on it, it's like, well, no one ever asked me to make sure that her laundry was done and clean and sent back. Like no one ever said that that was something that needed to happen. So it's like I took that on myself and then got mad that nobody was recognizing it. And like, why would my stepdaughter care about who did her laundry? Like she's a little kid. Um,
Well,
so
and I
that's
think
just,
like what you just described is so interesting because I hear you say you took it on and you recognized, oh gosh, I took this on. Nobody put this expectation on me. But then at the same time, I think it begs the question, why wouldn't she be grateful? Why wouldn't she recognize that as something to appreciate and have gratitude and share that gratitude? And I think one of the biggest struggles in being a stepmom is having to hold space for both.
hmm
The recognizing, okay, I took this on, nobody asked it of me, and holding children accountable and raising them to understand that you should have awareness of what others do for you and
true.
be appreciative. I think it is a hard
That's true.
balancing act.
It
Uh,
is it is hard. And especially, like we've talked about before, our situation, just with her being here much less than, for instance, what you have, right? So the dynamics are different. Everything is just very different. Um, yeah, so that's just such a prominent like memory though for me of like how frustrated I used to get with everybody that like nobody's thanking me for this,
I can
you
relate to
know?
that. Yeah. Well, because I mean, I think as moms too, like we're moms and stepmoms. So
Yeah.
I know for me, I'll speak for myself. I naturally fell into the role. It was like, oh, this is easy, especially in the early days where
Yeah.
my stepdaughters loved me and we just built a bond and a relationship so easily from the beginning. And then the problem started a couple of years into everything. And so, it's a real mindset shift.
hmm
And having to kind of go, whoa, like what's happening here? Like, why is the
Right.
train off the rails all of a
Yeah.
sudden?
Yeah. What
Like,
happened?
where did I go wrong?
I
Um,
know.
but it was all I always cooked and cleaned and did the laundry and was the one, on top of the kids about their chores. But then all of a sudden that was an issue. And then it was
Right.
well, you treat your bio kids different when in reality, everything was the same. And I think something my husband and I learned through it was we had a lot of conversations behind closed doors that we
hmm
thought we were doing good by not letting the kids see. And we thought we were presenting a united front, but we learned later, much, much later,
Yeah.
that sometimes it would have been beneficial for them to see that it was mutual conversations, that we came to
hmm
agreements, even though I was with them more. Just
Right.
our schedules. He worked nights because we had a business. I worked days, so I came home at night and did the homework and the meals and all the nighttime routines.
Yeah.
So I was the enforcer. I was the
Yes.
tough one, the mean one, just
hmm
by the nature of the time I was with him. But what they didn't see was what was happening behind the closed doors. And so
Yeah.
I was building loads of resentment. Like, I do everything for everyone and nobody
hmm
appreciates it. Um, yeah, I feel like you can go rounds and rounds on these things too.
Well, and I think one thing I always do like to remind stepmoms of, and I'm not saying that like our feelings aren't valid and all of that, but also like take the step family part out of it, take the stepmom piece out, and like talk to any mom, and like she's got a little bit of resentment going on, like
Absolutely.
it also is just like a mom thing, because being a parent is a thankless job a lot of the times. And, like you were saying, yes, it's important to raise kids to, have gratitude and all of those things. And it is, but my 9-year-old son definitely doesn't thank me for doing his laundry. But see, that's the difference, is like it doesn't bother me that when I carry his basket upstairs of folded laundry, and I even put it away sometimes. Sometimes I expect him to do it, but it doesn't bother me to do that because we have a relationship where I do get, hugs at night, and he tells me he loves me, and, all of those things. And I'm appreciated in, in other ways. Whereas with my
Yeah.
stepdaughter, it's a very different relationship.
I think
Um,
that's the key right there, the relationship piece.
yeah.
If you have a relationship, there's other elements that
Mhm.
there's give and take. Whereas
Yes.
if there's no relationship, there's no foundation, and you're constantly pouring out and doing for others, it really doesn't matter who it is. It could be the
Right.
stepchild, it could be the ex. I mean, depending on the
Yeah.
relationships, it could be your own partner or spouse.
Yep.
And if you don't get that reciprocated in some way and there's some balance, it might be 60-40, 80-20, give or take
Right.
every day is a little different.
Hmm.
But if you don't have that, I think that's where the resentment really creeps in. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So I know for me, like one thing I had to do, because I found around the holidays, I
Mm.
would I would start feeling really frustrated and angry because not angry. Angry is not the right word. Maybe more hurt. Because I would pour into making sure that, everything was right and that it was, magical and all of the things,
And
and
fair.
fair, and the day would come and the presents would be opened, and dad would get a big hug and I would get a thank you, just thanks. And it was like soul crushing because you pour so much into it, right? Like, I pour into all three kids.
Right.
Um, and then just to get that in return, it's like very deflating feeling because I do try so hard, right? Um, and so I really had to be mindful of, in around the holidays and things like that, be very mindful of what I'm putting my energy into. And my husband and I have conversation about like, here's what I need you to do. Like maybe I need you to take on the shopping, or maybe I need you to take on the wrapping or whatever, so that I'm not feeling like it's all on me. And then the day comes and I just, I'm just like over here, chopped liver kind of,
Yeah. Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
and
It's a
it has helped.
choice.
It did help.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
choice, right? Like we have to choose. We have to be intentional with what our role is and where we're spending our time and what and
mhm.
who we're pouring into and building those relationships. And if those relationships can't be built, owning it, acknowledging it, and knowing that if you choose to do something going forward, it's the choice you made and not hold that over somebody else or let the resentment build.
And that's just it. And the last few years that I've been doing things the way that I have, I'm way like I don't have resentment like I did. Like you said, we all get resentment kind of creeps back in, but the holidays don't come now, and I'm not, just feeling bothered. Like the holidays are great, and I've made a new way of doing it, and it works for our family. So I do encourage people to do that. If you're feeling, what is it that you're feeling resentful about, and looking at ways that you can,
Yeah.
work through that so that you're not constantly feeling frustrated and, walked on, because that's
So,
not a nice feeling.
so as many conversations as we've had, I'm so curious, what was the tipping point for you? Like, when was that moment where the frustration boiled over and you just realized, like, oh my gosh, I have to do something different. I have to change this. I can't keep living filled with so much resentment that's causing hurt and anger. Was there a
It
pivotal moment or was it really truly gradual just as you worked on healing and
it was definitely gradual, but like I remember like one particular Christmas that was like I just felt really deflated because it was just a like thanks, and because that is how our relationship has been, and that's a conversation for another day. Um, but it but I do remember that particular year, and it was like, okay, something has to change here. And it was at the same time that I was doing lots of working on myself and figuring out that like the way that I'm doing things in my step family like isn't working. This is all not working. So like things need to be different. And they were, you and I have talked about gratitude and how that was like implemented and life changing and something that I never even dreamed could make a difference in my life, but made a world of difference, right? Um, so that, along with just being super mindful of where my energy was going, um, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's made a big difference.
I
Hmm.
think gratitude, it's so funny. I know we've mentioned gratitude a few times in this conversation, and um, it was funny when we both discovered that gratitude is what we use to flip the script
I
in our
know.
brains and to
Yeah.
change the story and the narrative for ourselves. And I think there really is a lot of power in gratitude, and there's a lot of different ways to use it. You mean you can wake up and name three things you're grateful for. You can write them down. You can journal about them. You can write notes to somebody who you want to express your gratitude. And it's amazing how just that small thing, just one little thing, like I was telling you, my husband and I have a notebook in our bedroom,
Yes, I
and
love that.
like my toughest days when I was at rock bottom and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I wanted to run for the hills. I
Yeah.
literally was like, you know what? I've got to change that mindset or I will run for the hills. That is who I am and that is my MO. And I just sat down and wrote every reason I loved him and why I was in the relationship from the beginning. And I just kept doing that daily until I felt better.
Hmm.
And it was amazing because it was a gift to him. And he's going to listen to this podcast and realize that it was really a gift to me because it was what
Yeah.
I was doing to save our marriage when I was struggling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that him and I were struggling. That's the ironic part. It was that we were only struggling in having a blended family and figuring out how to
Yes.
do that well and
Yes.
successfully. So,
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah. That's like me. Our it wasn't our marriage that wasn't working. It was the blending the family that was taking over and making and yeah, I was the same. It was like I don't know how much longer I can do this. Um, and that is what led me to gratitude and like gratitude practice. And it rewires your brain to like just find the positive even in the negative situations, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I do find myself constantly, whether it's with my own situations or with, when I'm talking to family members or friends and they'll bring something up and then I'll be like, yeah, but this happened because of this or we learned this because of this and maybe it's annoying to them, I don't know, but I've just learned to kind of find the silver lining and it's definitely made me happier. Like I'm not just focusing on the negative all of the time. And let's be honest, there's a lot of negative things in a step family that you could focus on.
There are. And let's be honest, because we could have people listening that are in the thick of it and gratitude doesn't sound like a solution when you're in that place, right? Like how many years of this did you and I trudge through before we got to that place?
8 years.
And yeah. And on top of it, I'm probably actually about the same. I mean, without doing the actual math, probably 6 to 8 years of like heavy, hard, like, what
Yeah.
the heck am I doing? And if I hadn't gone through that, like I had to be ready for gratitude. I had to be ready for solutions. And
Yes.
it's okay to still be in that place and not ready. And it's okay to listen to this and hear the positivity and be like, yeah, yeah, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
good for you.
Bullshit.
I'll never
Yeah.
get there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
And that was
Um,
me though. That was me, right? Like I was like, I'll be damned if I'm gonna sit with a piece of paper and a pen and write down three things and you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna be happier. Like that is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my entire life,
oh, I
right?
can't tell you the number of therapists between issues with the stepkids, my husband and I, like whatever it was, and the
Yeah.
things that they would suggest. And it took every ounce of control in my body not to roll my eyes or not to make a face or a sigh or something because it was just like, whatever, that bullshit does not work. Do not feed it to me. And here I am saying, yes, it actually does.
It does. It does.
But you have to be ready and you have to, I mean, I don't want to say the stars have to align. You have to wake up, you have to hit the end of your rope and
Well, you have to be
you,
committed to making change.
yes.
Like
And you have
you
to want
can't,
to do something different.
yeah, like you have to be open-minded. Like if you're not open-minded to being like, okay, this piece of paper and this pen are gonna be life-changing. Like actually, yeah, it is. So like stepmoms, take a note here. Go get your paper and your pen and go write down 3 things that you are grateful for right now.
Well, and let's be honest, if we pulled out our pieces of paper laying around, which I know we both have,
I do. Yep.
some days I was grateful to have clean water. Some days I was grateful to be able to pay the bills. Some days I was grateful to have lights on in my home, like the most basic, simple things
Oh
that
yeah.
really had nothing to do with step family life or family life. It was just like, just, I just
This
need to
is
put
all I
something
can be
down.
grateful for today. Yeah. I mean,
Right.
yeah, some days were really hard. And so like I wasn't grateful for my family. Like I was like, you guys are all irritating me right now, right? So like today I'm grateful for sitting on this front porch, drinking this hot cup of coffee with the sun, on my arm, making me feel warm. Like that's what I'm grateful for.
And the fact that
Um,
none of you are around me.
yeah, and the fact that I'm doing it by myself. Um,
Funny.
yeah, no, it's funny how this conversation went from resentment to gratitude.
But I think that is kind of the path, right? That if you are
Yeah.
struggling, it could be something as simple as gratitude and as simple
Hmm.
as writing down 3 things you're thankful for, waking up and thinking of 3 things you're grateful for, going to bed, 3 things you're grateful for that happened that
That
day.
happened that day. Yeah. Or you know what? Let's just do one thing. Let's
Right.
start really small. Like we can just take itty bitty baby steps. Let's write down one thing that you're grateful for that happened today and
Yeah.
go from there. Right.
Yeah.
Um, because
It's powerful.
you and I are living proof that it is life changing. It is.
Yeah.
Um,
And
if
it
it
doesn't
wasn't,
mean we don't still have bad days or we don't still have challenges or,
oh,
I
we
mean,
definitely have challenges, let me tell you.
many more
But
episodes
that
to come on that.
Yeah, many more episodes, but that's the difference. Whereas I used to wake up completely consumed every day, like, and just like this, I don't know, it was like replay in my head all day long of like all the step family stuff. And now it's like something comes up, I'm like annoyed by it. I maybe think on it for a while. I have a conversation with my husband about it. And then I'm moving on. It's like,
Right.
it's
We've learned to compartmentalize and set it aside and not let
totally.
it consume our every waking moment. Whereas before we would, yeah, let's just say we've had some in-depth conversations and
Absolutely. And I can, like, my husband used to be like, what are you doing? Like, why are we still talking about this? Why is it like 2 weeks later and we're still on this conversation? And I'd be like, but you don't know, you know?
oh, same,
Um,
trust me, very much the same. I mean, I, I would spend 24 hours nonstop awake, constantly, you know, talking and but it's not solved. And my husband's like, but it is solved. And I'm like, but it's not. And he's like, I don't know what to do with you. I don't know how else to help.
yeah,
So,
I know. Husbands, God bless them. Sometimes they're just like, I don't know. I just want everyone to be happy, right? At
right.
least our husbands are so similar and they're just very like, let's all just get along and everyone be peaceful,
I know. I know.
right?
Yeah, I think there is a lot in step families, blended families to be resentful. I mean, there's
Mhm.
just so much resentment can build. And I think we all have to look in a mirror and say, I'm in control. I'm in control of my thoughts, my
My
feelings.
actions.
Yes. And you can
Mhm.
change it. If you don't like the road you're going down, if you don't like the narrative, you're in control and can do something about it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
okay. So
And
we've talked a
it's,
lot about gratitude, but if we could give the listeners 3 things to overcome resentment, what are those 3 things that we would tell them?
I think number one, like do an assessment, like take a look at your stepmom life and where is the resentment? Like, is the resentment around you're cooking all the meals when your stepkids are there? Is the resentment around you're doing all the laundry and packing it up nicely? Is the resentment around the holidays that you are left to do the planning and executing. Like
Right.
figure out where's the resentment and then start looking at what can be done differently so that you're maybe delegating some tasks to your partner.
And
So
I
that
think communication, I think you have to communicate it. And I think that's so often a misstep. I think the
it
narrative's in
totally.
our heads and we forget that people aren't mind readers.
No, and husbands definitely aren't mind readers. Like husbands just, I mean,
Right.
yeah, they don't know unless and again, like they're viewing life through their lens, right? Like
Absolutely.
everyone is
1000%.
everyone is living their life through their lens, right? So unless we
Yeah.
communicate with people and so that they can understand where we're coming from, yeah, it's no use stomping around and, slamming cupboard doors and things that we tend to do when we feel resentful. Yeah, have a conversation about it. But first I would say, yeah, do an assessment of where is the resentment and then from there, then you can have a conversation. Like, this is what
Right.
I'm noticing. This is, I've done an audit
Hmm.
and yeah, now I need to make some changes. And yeah, I mean, most partners are very willing and happy to have that conversation. I mean, everyone wants to have a happy relationship. Nobody wants to be miserable. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Awesome. This has been
Okay.
fun. Hey,
It
speaking of
has.
gratitude, if you're looking for a gratitude journal to get started, pop by our website,
Yes.
theartofblendedchaos.com, because there is a free download where you have a whole ready to go gratitude journal. It's simple, it's not in depth, it doesn't drive you crazy, and you can get started today.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that is all. Just, yeah, go to the website, download it, get your paper, and go write something down, stepmoms.
Awesome. Look forward to talking next week.
All right. A quick disclaimer to cover our asses. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on today's episode are the speaker's own. So if you didn't like them, why didn't you turn us off sooner?
The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. If you need support with a specific topic, you can do so by booking a one-on-one coaching call through our website, theartofblendedchaos.com. This podcast is not intended to replace professional, legal, or medical advice. You seriously didn't think we were lawyers or doctors, did you?